In late November of 1910, a private rail car slipped out of Hoboken, New Jersey under cover of darkness. No headlines, no public schedule, no explanation. On board were 6 men, not ordinary travelers, but some of the most powerful figures in American finance and politics. They used fake names. They left no paper trail. They told their families they were going duck hunting. Then they disappeared. Their destination was a remote, privately owned island off the coast of Georgia, an island so exclusive it was known only to America's wealthiest families. And what these men planned there would quietly reshape money in the United States and change the lives of every American who came after. This is the story of Jekyll Island. At the turn of the 20th century, the United States was booming. Railroads stitched the continent together. Factories pumped out steel, oil, and textiles. Cities swelled with workers chasing opportunity. But under that prosperity was a serious problem. America's financial system was chaotic. There was no central authority to stabilize banks. Money was issued by thousands of private institutions. Trust was fragile. Rumors could trigger panic, and panic could bring the entire system to its knees. That's exactly what happened in 1907. A wave of speculation collapsed, rumors spread, and banks began to fail in rapid succession. Wall Street teetered on the edge of disaster. Credit froze. Businesses couldn't operate. People rushed to pull their money out before it vanished. The government did nothing, because it couldn't. The man who stepped in to stop the collapse wasn't a president or a treasury official. It was J.P. Morgan, a private financier. He gathered bankers in his library, locked the doors, and forced them to coordinate emergency lending. It worked. But the lesson terrified America's elite. If one man could save the system, one day, one man could also control it. The conclusion among bankers and politicians was clear. The United States needed a central bank. But that idea came with a problem. Americans deeply distrusted central banking. They remembered the first and second banks of the United States, both shut down after accusations of corruption, political favoritism, and foreign influence. Central banks to the public meant concentrated power and backroom control. So, if a central bank was going to be created, it couldn't happen in public. It had to be done quietly. That's where Nelson Aldrich enters the story. Aldrich was one of the most powerful men in Washington. In November 1910, he quietly assembled a small group of trusted insiders, bankers, economists, and financial strategists, and arranged the secret trip south. Among them was Paul Warburg. Warburg was a German-born financier with deep experience in European banking systems. His family had advised governments, worked closely with central banks, and maintained long-standing relationships with elite financial circles, including the Rothschild family network. Also represented were interests tied to J.P. Morgan, National City Bank, and other dominant institutions of the era. To avoid suspicion, the men traveled under code names. Even the train staff didn't know where they were going. When they arrived at Jekyll Island Club, they vanished from public view. For more than a week, surrounded by palm trees and guarded seclusion, they worked in secret. What they drafted wasn't a government-owned central bank. It was something more carefully designed, a hybrid system. The plan called for a central authority with real power, but structured through regional banks that were privately controlled. It would have government backing, legal authority, and enormous influence over money and credit, while remaining insulated from direct democratic control. Public power, private control. A system that looked decentralized on paper, but concentrated influence where it already existed. In 1913, under Woodrow Wilson, the plan became law. The Federal Reserve Act was sold to the public as reform, a safeguard against financial panics, stability, modernization, protection. But behind the curtain, it permanently changed how money worked in America. Over the decades, the Federal Reserve's influence only grew. It shaped the boom of the 1920s, failed to stop the Great Depression in the 1930s, financed global wars in the 1940s, managed cycles of expansion and collapse. Then, in 1971, under Richard Nixon, the dollar was severed from gold entirely. Money no longer had a physical anchor. From that point forward, currency could be created without direct backing. Debt expanded rapidly. Inflation became a permanent feature of economic life. Asset bubbles grew larger and more frequent. Housing, stocks, education, healthcare, everything rose, except purchasing power. Today, the Federal Reserve sets interest rates, controls liquidity, backstops financial institutions, and quietly shapes markets that affect every American household. Yet, it remains unelected, largely unaccountable, and poorly understood. The meeting at Jekyll Island isn't a conspiracy myth, it's documented history. But what it represents is something deeper. It's the origin story of a system built in secrecy by a small group of powerful insiders, a system that still governs money, debt, and economic life more than a century later. Every dollar you earn, every loan you take, every savings account and retirement plan, all trace back to decisions made behind closed doors. So, the next time someone tells you inflation is a mystery, or that the economy is too complicated for regular people to understand, remember Jekyll Island, because a handful of men made decisions in secret, and the rest of us have been living with them ever since.
Hey y'all, I hope this helped you understand this stuff a little better. Let me know in the comments, and let me know if there is a topic you are curious about. Maybe I can help. You can also check out these 2 videos. Hope they help you. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hype this video. Always appreciate y'all, and thanks for stopping by the Stoop. God bless always.